I'm gonna put my plate right here. That way it's not like hanging out in the middle of the screen.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Today we're gonna talk about the downside of customer service and some other stuff. My wife is making French toast. It's hanging off on the other side of the camera. You know, you're fun.
Yeah.
We were just laughing about I literally have not been able to stop laughing since I think it was Friday. Like when you work in the security industry and you have different partners, you know, they switch people out. And so, you know, you're hanging out with people for the first time, trying to get to know each other. And I had this guy that came in on Friday. He's not my normal partner. And so, you know, trying to get to know him, asking him where he grew up. And he's telling me that he's like, you know, maybe 10 years younger than me. And that he grew up in a small town here in the area. I'm not going to say exactly where it was.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I was about to jump in if you were gonna name the place. I was gonna be like, no.
Oh my god. Okay. I'm trying so hard not to laugh. Okay. So this dude is like,
I think you should preface this before you tell the story. I know he's someone new, but like you're telling
oh my god,
a story about, you know, someone that obviously not about, but
yo, I'm not like, hang on a second. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble.
yes.
I'm not trying to trigger any investigations. Like, I'm gonna do my absolute best to keep names and places out of this, but this was the most AEO moment I've ever heard in my life. So I meet this guy the other day for the first time. He's new to the company. And so he's like, you know, he's 10 years younger than me. Maybe he's like his late, I'm going to say late 20s to early 30s, right? And so we're talking, and he's like, yeah. He's like, you know, he's like, I'm good friends with another guy that works here. He actually, like, got me the job. and so I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a good dude. I know that guy. He's like, yeah, we went to the same school. And he was like, you know, the other day we were working together, and, man, we were just reflecting on, like, on high school and old times and good old Coach Stevens. You know, you're talking about Coach Stevens. And he was like, we were just laughing and joking.
That's not really the coach's
name.
That's
not the coach's name, right? So he was like, yeah, everybody knew back at school, old Coach Stevens, you know, Big Dick Steve is what we used to call him. I'm like, Big Dick Steve? Like that's I'm like, what? And he said it like in passing, like, and went on to the next part of the conversation. So I'm like, wait, what are you talking, like, why was that his nickname? And he was like, oh, he had a huge dick. Like, everybody knew he had, like, this really big cock. I'm like, how would people know at your school that this coach has a big dick? And he's like, oh, well, he was a football coach, and he used to shower with all the guys after the practice and after the game. And he, like, goes on with the conversation, and I'm like, wait, stop, back up, wait. I'm like, your football coach used to shower with you guys? He's like, yeah, like, your coaches didn't do that? I'm like, no, fam. No, not at all. Like, I've heard of coaches saying hit the showers. I've never heard of coaches saying let's hit the showers. Like, I've never. And I was just like,
oh, God.
And so you, like, obviously the conversation kind of stalled for a second and it got quiet. And so I didn't want to make him feel any more awkward about the situation, so I just like kind of let it go. And then I'm sitting there, and just like a second ago, I just busted out laughing. I could not stop laughing. Like, there's no point to this story other than I'm just sharing. Like, this is the opening to the podcast today. Like, and every time that I think about that conversation, just
we both like thought about this and. You know, you being
yo, if you're watching, bro, I'm sorry. I'm not making fun of you, man. Like, actually, I want to tell you that I'm here if you need to talk about anything, you
Stop
know.
It.
But no disrespect, man, but that shit has making me laugh all week.
Yeah. I mean, I think you being from Arkansas and me being from Missouri. I mean, like, that's some shit that stereotypically would happen, like maybe where we're from or some weird, some weird shit. But
I never had a coach that jumped in the showers.
Yeah.
That was never.
Yeah.
Again, it's Oregon, you know what I mean? Like, you know.
It is Oregon.
It is Oregon. I mean,
things are a little different.
I mean,
you know? Maybe it's the norm. Maybe
oh my God,
doing it right. You know, we're working.
Golly, bro. All right. So today I want to talk about the downside of customer service. You know, I always talk about how important it is to have a customer service mindset. We are not law enforcement officers, we're security. And if you work in a retail establishment or setting, a lot of times the vast majority of what we do is customer service for two reasons. Number one, you create a lot of rapport with people, which helps to de-escalate things. And then number two, it puts you in a position where you get to know the community that you're working with. So I am a huge proponent of the customer service mindset. Now, I've had people on this channel and people on other, security guard center channels are like, hey, you're not there for customer service. You're there to respond to things. You're there to deal with things. Like, you're not supposed to, ingratiate yourself to people. Like, don't do that. Just stand in your spot, check the receipts, at the very most, say hi and bye. So there's two schools of thought. I generally lean towards the customer service mindset. I think that's important. However, there is a drawback and there is a downside, and I can admit that, and I want to talk about that. So at one of the locations where I work, there is a lady. I will call her Samantha. Okay, there's a lady named Samantha. She's in her mid-60s, and she suffers from
cerebral palsy.
So she's in a wheelchair, right? An amazing woman. This lady has very limited verbal ability. She speaks almost like you would imagine someone who's deaf would speak. Like, she has a very cannot enunciate, has a very difficult time speaking. I believe she has very limited use of her legs. She has very limited use of her limbs. But this lady has been coming into the store for like 30 years. I mean, she's a staple of this location. Very, very smart, very brilliant. I've talked to her about her life and her past, and she's got, multiple degrees. She works at the university like in a assistant capacity, However, she is extremely needy. So, most of the time when she comes into the store and she approaches, associates or security guards, most people, they really don't even put out the effort to try and communicate with her. Now, me, being a communication type guy, I like the challenge. So I really liked the original challenge of meeting her and communicating with her and trying to decipher what she was saying, what she needs, being able to be like a intermediary for her, right? Mm-hmm. Because like I'm an empathetic person. I'm like, man, if I was ever in that situation and I had to go to a grocery store, I would want somebody to listen to me. I want somebody to talk to me, to interact with me. I'd want somebody to, help me if I needed, something, just be there, right? Well, that's all well and good. But what has ended up happening is now, anytime that this person comes to the store, they seek me out. They seek me out to like do anything and everything. If it's like, it's like, get me a basket, help me get this item, help me cash this check, open this drink. I mean, it's like to the point where I'm almost like a caregiver. You know what I mean? Which is odd because she has a caregiver, but the caregiver's not there. You know what I mean? I feel like she's telling the caregiver, stay at home. I'm serious. I feel like she's telling the caregiver, hey, you fall back. Like, I'm going to go hang out with it's almost like we're on some relationship type shit.
Okay. I was getting ready to say that your naivety is so sweet
today. Okay. Let's go. Let's
talk
about it. Let's talk about it.
I met her and listen, I would want some hulking, strapping young man to help me at the grocery store if I was in that position as well.
She's trying to get up in the showers like old Coach.
I'm just saying, First off,
yo, she'll come into the store. Like, I'm gonna tell you where, like, how it's gotten out of hand. Okay, it's like it's out of hand. God damn, it's like a Snoop Dogg concert up in this bitch.
And not in the fun way.
She'll come into the store with like a bag attached. It'll be like she'll have a seatbelt, and none of this is meant to be disrespectful. I'm just making a point. She'll have a seatbelt, and attached to the seatbelt is like a backpack, right? So the backpack is now dangling between her legs, and she'll be like, "Hey, can you get my drink for me?" And I'm like, "No, I'm gonna have an associate come over and get your drink. I will open your drink. I'm not gonna reach down between your legs and into a bag. You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
My boy Brian, he was telling me texted me last week. He was like, "Man, you got Linda on some service type shit." He was like, "You're not here, and she came looking for you, and she brought me a candy bar." He was like, "So, she hands me the candy bar, and I'm like, 'Oh, thank you.' And she's like, 'No,' and she's like motioning that she wants to eat the candy bar." So Brian is like, "I felt bad, you're not there, so I opened the candy bar up, and she wants me to feed her the candy bar. It's like all melted, and there's chocolate, and she's like eating the candy bar and looking into my eyes." And he was like, "You did this." I'm like, "Bro, I ain't never fed this woman no damn candy bar. That's you. Like, that sounds like a you issue." Right? But it's just crazy, man. It's to the point now, like, as soon as she comes in, like, everybody starts, like, calling for me, like, "Oh, your girl's here, your girl's here." Yesterday, I had to man one specific door, right? So, I cover a door for one guy's lunch, and then the second guy goes to lunch. I man that other door. So I'm literally standing in one location for an hour. And she came over and she wanted me to, like, check her account balance on, we have this thing called Bottle Drop where you can, like, do recycling and they put money on the account. You can use that money to buy food and things like that. So she wanted me to go over and check her account. Like, it's all the way across the store. There's a little kiosk. I have to take this necklace off of her neck and put the code in. And according to her, nobody else can understand what the code is. Nobody else can do it. And I'm like, I have to stand here. I can't go over there. She parked next to me for a whole hour. I was like, "I'm going to be over here for an hour. I can't go over there." She was like, parked, and just sat right there next to me for an hour. You know what I mean? I'm like, "You need to, like, go shopping or do anything?" She's like, "No." I'm just like, I'm just saying that, like, if you ingratiate yourself in this type of environment and you put yourself out there to, like, go over and above, then what do you do? Like, how do you get out of that? I've had people where I say hi to people as they come in. I try to be nice to people. I try to create, like, create that rapport. And then inevitably, we've changed policies where, like, you can't take the homeless community. I'm big on creating a relationship with the homeless community, right? Mm-hmm. To where I have very few problems. But then, like, we change policies. No blankets in the store. No garbage bags in the store.
Right.
Whatever it is. No machetes. And now the first time that you have to tell this person they can't bring something in, now it's like,
you're back to the bad guy.
Now you're back to being the bad guy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the wheelchair customer situation? Clearly you think that there's a crush there. Is there a crush? Is that what this is?
Yeah, and I'm going to stereotype for just a hot minute. There's probably not too many places that she goes where people stop and give her the, basic respect or human decency that she deserves. Like, so that, yeah, it is one of those where it's like, sorry, you can't get out of that. You can affirm the boundaries of, you can't, it's one thing to help open her drink and do things like that. Like, there are certain things, though, you can't do. You can't leave your post to go around the store with her to do that, right? You couldn't do that with anyone. But there are things you can do, like you said, open her drink, or if she wants to sit next to you for an hour, but you still have your job to do. I don't think, especially with being who we're talking about, I feel like based on all the stories you've told me, like all the conversations and things you guys have, you're at a point where you can say, hey, you know, you can definitely sit next to me, you know, but I still have, you know, my job to do, so I'm going to have to leave and go do my rounds.
Absolutely.
And, you know, but I don't want to say, oh, you're kind of stuck, but that is the flip side. And I feel like in this situation, it's a little bit of a, it's kind of a little bit of a special circumstance. But I only say that because she probably doesn't go a lot of places and get people who
have any real interaction,
true conversations, interactions with her. Like, you did put the time into speaking with her and learning how she communicates. I mean, so, you know, for me, I mean, I look at that and I'm like, yeah, I don't blame her for her wanting you to be like walking around the store with her. I know you can't and you don't, but like, I'm sitting over here going, yeah, she's probably like, yep, you know, no problem.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, you know, it's part of the.
It's no different. It's different, but it's like, remember when you first started at your location after you got the job, and it was in the first couple of months, but really soon after you got the job, there was the older woman who did, I believe, the parking garage.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Talking about, you know, obviously you come home, talk about your day, but you're like older woman, like granny, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you know, like granny. And she was talking, she would talk to you and you would come home and be like, oh yeah, you know, whatever. And you talked to so-and-so at lunch and it was all superficial conversations.
Yeah.
Until she
threw them panty drawers at your boy.
Yeah, until she was like, you know, hey, I didn't know if
oh my God, I forgot about that.
Gosh,
that was crazy.
You both closed tonight, right? And she's like, do you want to go and grab a drink? And you're like, no, I'm gonna go home. And then she got tickets to a game, or I don't know what, she did something.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
You definitely were like, I don't think that my wife would blah, blah, blah. And you came home and you were just like, oh my gosh, you know, you got to set them boundaries in place.
Yo, shout out to her for shooting her shot, because she was a wreck. But
I wasn't even mad, but I did come to the store though after she did that, and I was like, well, I got to see who this is, because, and then of course once I saw her, I was like, well, this is adorable.
Yo, I don't remember how that all ended. But yeah,
I remember.
What?
Because she had an issue with her paycheck, remember? You came home and you told me about this. She had an issue with your paycheck, and that was after the second time she had asked you out. You shot her down, and you definitely drew the line of like, no, this isn't that. And as soon as she opened her mouth, when she pulled out her envelope with like paycheck or pay stub or something, and she was like, ah, blah, and you went, hey, nope. I am not the person to talk about any of this with. If you have an issue with your hours, if you have an issue with your pay, that's not me. Because she was like security, but clearly...
She worked for Allied Universal. Yes. They were doing like outside security. I think that she ended up... I don't remember if we've had so many. It was either her or the next person that had a mental breakdown and was like hiding in the bathroom. Like, we've had some crazy shit.
I don't think that was her.
I've had more experiences with people having mental breakdowns in Portland than any place I've ever lived. I've seen people literally be taken out of work on stretchers because they couldn't deal with whatever was going on. What do you think that is?
Oh, I didn't know we were going to do that kind of a question.
I'm just asking. It's a question. We don't need to get like super deep. I'm just saying that like I've witnessed at least 6 people have a legitimate flat out breakdown to where they've left work. Some have like, when I say sit in a corner rocking back and forth, I've seen people do that.
Environmental and societal, not standards, but standards mentality. It is so different. The basic line of like, I don't even know what word I'm looking for. Everything is just so different here. Everything is just so different here.
People are so emotional. It's a very emotional place.
It is, and we live in the hub of feelings over facts. We live in the hub of feelings over facts. We live in the hub of self-absorption to the point of detriment. But on the flip side of that, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I do know, but that's just getting into
we're like, ouch! Why would you do that? Why did you just do that? My dog just scratched the shit out of me. Why did you just do that? Stop. I see you.
Ignoring me.
I see you. God dang.
It's just different.
There's some violent animals in here.
There's a lot of it's different than where I grew up completely. And I'll just just Midwest, and I'll say ideals, consequences, repercussions, and the positive things. Dealing with everything is so different here. The thought process behind it.
Yeah.
And
I think that if we circle back to the lady in the wheelchair situation, I think that it's important to be open and available to people, and I think it's important to create that kind of rapport. But definitely, you have to set your boundaries, and you can set boundaries. I think that people get in this weird place where it's like, if I set boundaries, I have to set boundaries in some sort of like aggressive way or aggressive tone. You don't. Like you were saying, I just tell her like, hey, I can't leave this door for an hour. If you want to sit here for an hour, then feel free. I'm not going to be sitting here talking to you for a full hour. I have to do my job. But at the same time, being okay with setting that boundary. I think that people think it's either or. Brian, you shouldn't be feeding people melted chocolate candy bars. Like,
don't let him lie. He'd love it if you fed him a melted candy bar.
Jeff has the Superman theme on his phone. And anytime that she comes in, he plays the Superman theme because I'm supposed to be her Superman. He plays it over the radio.
I think that's sweet.
That's not sweet.
I don't mean Jeff. I just mean, I can't even be mad at her.
Yeah.
I can't even be mad at her.
All right, let's see. We got some comments. Union Joe says, what's up, bro? How you doing? A7 Edits. What's up? How you doing, bro? Christopher Sanders. What's up, boss man? How you doing? This dude says, damn daddy hella buff. I'm hoping.
Who said that? Can we be friends?
Don't encourage people.
He just said, damn daddy hella buff. He called you daddy? Or she?
I don't know. I'm just going to pass it. I'm going to move on past that.
Oh, God.
This person said, looking great. Hope you have a good day. Thank you. Hoagie McIntosh put up the laughing emojis. PBE says, I'm late. Who's the parking lot lady? Parking lot lady was like this 65-year-old Allied Universal
lady. She was trying to get her some dark chocolate.
Yeah, man. She was shooting that shot.
Mm-hmm.
New John Gotti says, hey, Dame, I've been watching your videos for quite a while. I watch one every morning. Getting ready for my shift. I love your takes and your knowledge on situations. Always wanted to tell you great work. Hey, man, I appreciate that. It's very nice of you. Carrot says, is this thing live? No, this was recorded yesterday. I'm from the future.
Can we please do, with that video, remember I told you I watched it? This is off topic, and then I want to circle back to your customer service, but since that person made that comment, can we please do a video about the controversial daddy topic? Not today.
What controversial daddy?
Remember I told you I watched that video? It's like women who call their husband or, man, they'll be like, okay, bye, daddy. Like, and they're kind of recording it and then to see how the husband reacts to them saying that. And that one guy just went, like, absolutely not. Remember that? And then I was reading the comments and stuff. I think we should do a video about it. We should. Not
we
today.
We can do a video. We can do a video later, a private video.
So, you were talking about your customer service, and I think we just got sidetracked on stories. When you started, you said, you kind of really only listed one downfall, because you said you always talk about taking the customer service first approach versus not doing that, but you only really gave one downfall. Are there any other downfalls to the customer
I think
service?
that the two downfalls that I've seen is that people get kind of conditioned to you being somewhat of a concierge, and that's not your job. Number two, I think that the boundaries of giving you the leeway to either be able to do something or not, and them not get upset, that can get blurred, right? Over a long enough timeline, if you have a lot of interactions with people. I had a lady, she's a lot of the issues that I end up having are with older women. So I have a lady that comes in and she's probably in her late 60s to early 70s. And we talk about, the weather. We talk about her TV shows that she likes. She's a big fan of CSI and all those TV shows, the crime drama stuff, right? And, any given time that you come in, I could be just standing there, or I could be listening to what's going on the radio. We could be about to make a stop or do a detention or something like that. So it was like a week span where she came in and she like would walk right past the podium. She wouldn't say anything. And so I didn't think about anything about it because, people are busy and stuff. And so then she comes over one day and she goes, "Hey, I just wanted to kind of clear the air. I don't know what the issue is between us." And I'm like, "Issue between us?" I'm like, what are you talking about?" And she's like, "Well, I was in here one day and you were just kind of staring off and you didn't say anything. And I thought maybe you were mad at me." And I'm like, what in your, you know what I mean? Like, what in your mind is our relation? Like, you know what I mean? I don't want to say relationship, but like, what in your mind do you think that our interaction is? And I said, well, first off, I would never in a million years like be upset with you about anything.
Right.
There's no circumstance where I would be upset with you. And I said, if you come into the store and I'm not saying anything, more than likely I'm listening on my earpiece to what's going on the radio. I said, I think sometimes people maybe don't understand that just because I'm standing here and I'm friendly, a lot of people don't recognize that I'm actually watching things that are going on behind you and around you, or I'm listening to things and I have a camera system in front of me. Like, I can have a conversation and still be plugged into what I'm doing. But sometimes if I'm listening to instructions or if we're about to do something, I might not say anything. I said, if you ever walk in and I don't immediately say hi if I see you, then more than likely I'm in the middle of something or I'm on a phone call or something. I was like, but if I see you, I'm going to always say hi. I say hi to everybody that I know. And she was like, "Oh my God, okay, well, I thought maybe I had done something wrong or said something wrong or, had upset you." And she was like, "I just felt horrible and I didn't know how to." I'm like, so, doing that and being open with people and having conversations with people, it seems like you're opening up boundaries and people can misconstrue things. That could go, something like that could go south too, because if somebody thinks that you're in a closer dynamic than you really are, and you do say something that upsets them, like that could be something that they complain about. People try to rope me into political conversations all the time. If you don't know, I have been on political news stations and I've had commentary on certain topics. So because I am black and have a political outlook that is a little counter to what is generally associated with that, some people in this area know who I am, okay? So I get people that come up to me and ask my opinion on all kinds of things on both sides of the equation. There are people that during like 2020, 2021 that are very prominent Antifa members. There are people that are very prominent in the Antifa movement that either worked at the location where I'm at or shop at the location that I'm at. And since I get along with everybody and I like different opinions, and I was at the protest when a lot of these people were like, I don't want to say becoming famous, but like making a name for themselves on social media, I know who these people are. So I get interaction from people that are legit Antifa, and I get interaction from people who are legit Proud Boys. I get interaction from people on the political spectrum that are far right and people on the political spectrum that are far left. So it's not uncommon for people to ask me questions about things. But I always like try to tell myself to not get into it, because here in Portland, you say the wrong thing and like people will get upset. And it's not something that like would stop with just them making a complaint. Like they would make a Twitter video and like they would at the company that I work for. Like it would be a big deal. Yeah. So I have to be very careful about not getting into that conversation, especially like lately with everything that's going on in the Middle East. Like I have been like,
zip.
Yeah.
Zip it. Yeah.
One good thing, I will say this as a cautionary tale, you never know who you're talking to, right? And we'll try and say this without putting people's business out there. So, you know, just because you work at a retail establishment or you work in some sort of like area, don't get it twisted that the people that you work around, that's who they are. Portland is a hub for entertainers, is a hub for like actors, for activists, for people, and it never ceases to amaze me how connected certain people are, right? So when everything started popping off in the Middle East, I'll just say that most people I'm going to be trying to be very careful with how I say this, but when things started happening in October, okay, most people had one viewpoint of the situation. And people at work were voicing their concerns about what had happened on that day in October, okay? Most people were either sympathetic to that situation or they kept their mouth shut, okay? There was one particular person that started saying things that were counter to what was going on. That counter narrative hadn't really picked up a lot of steam,
right? Like
it has recently. Okay.
Yeah.
So we had an employee that, although they worked in this location, I personally knew that this person came from money. And I knew that this person was not from this area. They were from another West Coast area. Okay. And this person did not appreciate the conversation that was being had about the counter narrative. Okay. So that became a problem. And the person that has connections to another left West Coast area decided that they did not feel comfortable or safe and decided to leave and not work there any longer. And in doing this, I think reached out to some family members. Ironically, a 3-letter agency visited one of these employees that was pushing the counter narrative. So just, you got to be careful about thinking that just because you work in a restaurant or a bank or a diner, and I don't have a dog in this fight on either side. I'm just relaying what happened. Okay. I'm just the messenger here. But it was a very clear point to me to like not take your political conversations into work and not share your opinions on everything. And a lot of times people were like, hey, like if I have one viewpoint or another viewpoint, both of those viewpoints should be equally acceptable at work. But that's not how things work in reality.
Right.
And you don't want to find that out the hard way.
Don't discount the people that work around you. If
right.
you could be guarding a 7-Eleven or a gas station or something, and you can't discount just because that person is working behind the counter, and you think, gosh, who'd want to work at a gas station or something? Like, you can't discount who that person knows.
You never know who people are.
And what.
It's like It's like Batman Begins. In Batman Begins, Christian Bale, he's Bruce Wayne. And he's upset. I don't remember why he left Gotham City, but he leaves his wallet, leaves his credit cards, and he just gets on a boat.
and he's like out doing boating shit and ends up in like Cambodia and he's like selling fish.
Right.
That's fucking Bruce Wayne, man. Like one phone call, and he's Bruce Wayne. Like just because he's next to you in Cambodia scaling fish, don't get it twisted. That's Bruce Wayne. And that happens in Portland a lot. I think that happens in a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
Just because somebody's working at a gas station, maybe they're, from a multi-millionaire family and their dad's trying to teach them a lesson. Go work at this gas station for 6 months and then you can come take over the company, Billy.
Right.
Or sometimes people just want to get their hands in the mud.
Yeah.
People that are actors or people that are artists, they like working in menial jobs because it puts them around the everyday person. If you are Tracy Chapman, you write your first album, you've been broke your whole life. You write your first album, it goes quadruple platinum. Now you're living in Beverly Hills. And for the next 4 years, your entire life is the best food, the best, restaurants, the best clothing, the best housing. You can't tap in to what it's like to be a working man. It's not uncommon for somebody in that situation to be like, hey, I'm just going to go get a job down at the local florist. I'm going to work 3 days a week from 7 to 7 and just get my hands in the dirt and just be around people. Just hear the conversations of the people that come in. See the relationships of the people that are working in that location. How do they interact with their boyfriend? What are they complaining about? I haven't even been on these. I've been in a relationship. I've been married for 12 years. I don't even know what it's like. And then you're over there talking shit. You know what I mean?
And someone else.
And then Tracy got people showing up at your crib. You know what I mean? Like, you have to just be aware of that. Keeping those boundaries. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For real, let's hang out. I don't know what he's talking about. He's not lying. Yeah. What's some things in your self-defense toolbox that you always think of or have? I don't know what that means. What are some things in your self-defense toolbox? Let's just go with that you've trained. Okay, all right, yeah. Because you said like tyrannies. I don't know where you were going with that. What are some things in your self-defense toolbox that you always think of and train really good? My firearm, my offside knife, pepper spray, and my de-escalation skills and my critical thinking to not put myself in bad places or situations. This guy says facts. This guy says one day you speak your mind at the post office, the next day the FBI or the ATF is at your house. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. Sometimes you just got to ask yourself, especially at work, is it worth it? Because people say the most stupid political stuff to me, and I'm like, man, I could put you in your place. I can show you that you don't know what you're talking about. But at the end of the day, is it worth it to do that?
Right. Because
you have 8 more hours of a shift. That guy has 12 more hours to go home and try and fuck up your job.
Yeah.
I
feel like it's a never-ending cycle. I love you. Love everyone who does security who watches this. You're always telling them something. Don't fraternize. Don't do this. Think of your job.
Yeah,
that's not me.
Yeah, they think I'm the killjoy. No, do a Damien impression. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't have fun. Don't go outside. Don't look at people. Is that what you guys think of me?
Serious to God, though.
I got in trouble yesterday. Hang on. I'm not going to chew on camera. Hang on.
You didn't tell me you got in trouble.
I didn't get in trouble. We're at work yesterday and a bat flies into the store. I lived in Pennsylvania and I used to live right across from this old, like Gothic type Romanian church right across the street. So they started doing roof construction. And when they broke through the roof, thousands of bats came out of this thing. I mean, thousands. To the point that, like, at 12 o'clock during the day, 100 bats had just decided that my roof was the place to hang out. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Right? It was a 3-story brownstone. I had access to the entire house, but I only lived in the bottom floor because the bottom floor of the house was like 3 times as big as what we live in now.
Yeah.
It was huge. And I was paying $650 a month. It's crazy. So the second floor and the third floor were just completely open, nothing in there. Well, it's a 1800s to early 1900s house. All these bats get in. So I'm downstairs, you know, and eventually over the course of like the next week or so, I'm hearing all these weird noises and things like, you know, every time I go to bed at night, I'm hearing like stuff patting and shit. I'm like, what the hell is that? So there was a door to open where you go up the stairs and you get to the second floor, and then a door that you open and you go to the third floor. Once I figured out like it was coming from the third floor, I opened the door and it's like Scooby-Doo. The bats are just like, like, right? And come into the house. And it was like 5 bats. In my mind, it was thousands of bats in the house. It was like 5 bats. But still, I never fucking had any.
You trying to have no bats for no roommates.
I never had any interaction with bats, ever. So now I'm freaking out. I call the landlord. I'm like, yo, come get these bats. He's like, just open the door. They'll fly out. I'm like freaking out, right? So I go get a tennis racket, and I'm like literally trying to kill these bats with a tennis racket, and I am breaking everything in the damn house. And my girlfriend at the time is just like, stop. I'm just like, right? So we get the bats out finally. And then for like the next couple of days, like the landlord comes over and he puts caulk and stuff in the areas where he thinks there's holes. And so now, like, you know, we go through a couple of days, we don't have any bats. So one night I'm sleeping, and we used to sleep with the TV on, right? And so I'm asleep, and like I feel somebody like tapping me on my shoulder, and I'm like, My girlfriend's name was Shelly at the time. I'm like, I feel like this. And I'm like, and I'll open my eyes, and it dawns on me, Shelly's back is to me, and she's facing that way. So I'm like, who's tapping me on my shoulder? And I look, and you know how like Sadie, our cat, will like lay on us like this?
Right.
There was a bat just like. And I'm looking at it, and it's looking at me, and I'm like, yeah! I fucking jump up, right? Shelly jumps up, so we're both like, she's freaking out because I'm screaming. We're both running around like half naked, you know what I mean, in the bedroom. And the light from the TV's flickering. I'm sure the people across the street thought we were like killing each other. We're just like, right? So that was my experience with bats. I don't like them. So then yesterday, we're at work. And we're standing at the podium, me, my partner, and then like the loss prevention guys. We're just standing there talking. And I look down and I see something flying at me. And I'm like, oh, that's a bat. And so my partner was like, what? And I was like, I picked him up and put him right in front of me, right? And so we're like, ah! So the bat like flies around the corner. Right as the bat flies around the corner, we get a call from the manager. She's like, hey, this guy's over here eating food. I need him out of the store. He's on aisle 7. So we come around the corner, like kind of chasing the bat. And the bat lands right by aisle 7. So now the homeless guy is walking out. And as he walks out, we're standing kind of at aisle 6. The bat is right there at aisle 7. The guy's coming out of aisle 7. The manager's behind him. She's like, I want this guy out. And so he sees us, and immediately he's like, oh, okay. And so he veers to the left, and we have a loss prevention officer further to the left. So I just look at the guy, and I'm like this. He goes around the corner and walks right out the door. Well, as this happened, I went, there's a bat right there. And so she looks and sees the bat, and the bat jumps up and flies towards us again. So now it's flying towards us, and I'm like, ah! And I put Alejandro back in front of me, right? So we all kind of like start screaming around and jumping and everything. And then the bat like, flies off or whatever. So she like grabbed the loss prevention officer, and she was like, tell Damien to stop screaming. Down there screaming about a bat. You know what I mean? And he calls me on the phone. He was like, hey, the manager said, stop screaming. Control yourself and stop yelling that there's a bat in the store. Hey, man. So then for the next couple of hours, everybody's like, I went upstairs and I knocked on her door and I said, hey, I am very sorry. I said, I apologize. I had a bad experience with bats in Pennsylvania. I'm sorry. And she was like, it's okay. We're fine. Right. But then for like the next hour, everybody was like, oh, Batman. And like making fun of me. Oh, you scared of bats. You scared of bats. I said, do I look like Steve fucking Irwin to you? You see a pair of shorts? Like, why am I supposed to
know how to wrangle a bat?
Like, yeah. Why should I be okay with a bat in a goddamn store? Like, why would that be something that, like, oh, no, I'm okay with a bat? Like, why would I? I said, and this is Portland. I didn't want bats in rural Pennsylvania. Like, God knows what these bats lick on and eat and drink and slurp up and root in here in Portland. No, thank you. I don't want any goddamn bats getting on me here. And make me trying to shame me like I'm weak or something. I don't like bats and I don't like roaches or snakes. I don't really do snakes. I was gonna say
snakes. I love you, but you pretty much don't like anything if it ain't a dog or a cat.
If it ain't a dog, a cat, or a white girl.
Right.
Those are my three.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, what are you gonna do?
Somebody says bats don't give a fuck, bro. Absolutely. New John Gotti, I would have been dead right there. Dude, everybody was clowning me, man. They were clowning me.
Should we talk about your fear of sloths to people, or just save that for another day?
Yeah, that'll be a whole different one. Somebody says, what are some good moves for bouncers, security, judo throws, or wrestling? Guys, look, when it comes to self-defense, take the CIA approach. The CIA approach, they don't train. I mean, I'm sure that like they're super operative type people. I'm sure it's different. But there's a great guy on YouTube. I can't remember his name. I'll find it and put it in the comments or whatever. But he says that like they just train people to break contact. They don't train people to get into a knockdown, drag out fight. Remember, once you get on the ground, once you get into a tangle up with somebody, you're taking your own hands out of the fight too. And if you're focused on one person, you're not focused on what's going on around you. The most important thing is to always observe distance. Distance gives you time. Make sure that you stay twice COVID length. So stay 12 feet away from people if possible when you're giving them instructions and commands. Keep that space. Stay away from them so you can see what they're doing and react. Always remember the OODA loop, right? OODA. Observe, that's O. Orient yourself, decide, and act. Everything that you do comes from that one term, the OODA loop. If you don't understand that, then you're not understanding the reactionary gap in what you have to do to respond to people's actions, right? So make sure you give yourself lots of distance. But you're not there to get into a fight with people. If you have to go hands-on, if you have to get somebody out of the store, it needs to be quick. It needs to be effective. It needs to be efficient. When I first started looking at defensive tactics for security, I went to a guy that teaches Kung Fu, and he was like, I'm going to give you 4 things that I want you to think about. If you're in this position, I want you to do this. If you get to this position, I want you to do that. It was like standing, mounted, how to get out of being in a guard position, like very basic stuff. He was like, if you know these 4 basic things, you're going to be able to handle yourself in a security capacity and where you're working. After that, over the next couple of years, I went to Sheepdog Response and trained with Tim Kennedy. I went to one of Mike Glover's classes. I started taking jujitsu and getting way more involved. And you know what I figured out? Those 4 things that he showed me were really all that I needed in the capacity of work that I do. Those 4 things that I originally worked with Greg, and I have them videotaped and on my page. If you go all the way to the very beginning of my YouTube channel, the very early videos, the first 5 or 6 videos are me and him doing defensive tactics and doing gun retention. And everything that Vince, who is an Army Ranger, taught me last year, this is somebody who's worked as a mercenary, I paid him to give me instruction, and he literally showed me the exact same things that I was taught 4 years ago. It's simple. Keep it simple, right?
Yep.
Yep. Somebody says no bugs, don't care. I woke my girl up out of her sleep for a cockroach. Yep, she went back to sleep and left me there. Absolutely.
Duh, because we know what's up.
Yeah, I don't like bugs, man. I don't understand why people try to shame me like that makes me less of a man.
First off, it doesn't. Everyone has something. I think it depends on the capacity. Like, I can't stop spiders from being in the shop, right? It's a garage. It's a garage. And in any way, shape, or form, like they're in my way, the motherfuckers get killed.
Yeah.
We don't catch and release in this house. We kill and trash or flush or dispose of it, right? However, I got one in there right now. Built him a whole ass web. He's not in my way. So for me, I'm like, all right, if you stay right there,
and he'll eat the other smaller stuff.
He'll eat the other smaller stuff, like knock yourself out. But the moment he gets in my way, like he gots to go. But in the house here, I look at this like, we pay for this house, they don't pay for this house. So you don't get to stay.
You know, when I lived in Mississippi, I had this apartment and they were like, hey, there's geckos in your apartment. And I'm like, what? And they're like, listen, there's geckos in the apartments. It's perfectly normal. They're not going to bother you. Just let them stay because they eat the bugs. And I'm like, so I like move my stuff into the apartment. I'm looking around. I don't see no damn geckos, right? And then sure enough, man, I'm watching TV. And then like on the TV, there's just a fucking lizard like
Chilling.
I'm like, the fuck? At the time, I had this American pit bull named Athena. And she would eat those damn geckos like gummy worms. I mean, she loved them.
Oh my God.
And I was like, all right, whatever. I was like, I asked my vet, I'm like, did that kill her? And they're like, no, unless she eats a bunch of them. But
you're like, well, I don't know how many she's
yeah,
eaten. I
how
haven't
many
seen
is a
any in
bunch,
while.
right? Yeah. How many is a bunch? All right. Well, I guess I'm you said we have to go get that tree at 11:30 or 12?
No, I have someone coming by to build a wall at 11:30.
How long will that be?
I don't know. It's a dude.
Right.
Why do you think I scheduled it for today when you were home?
Mm-hmm.
I met him Saturday at the market.
All right. Well, I'm going to go work out then, I guess.
All right. You just have to be home by 11:30. Well,
It's already
Dad's
10:30.
here. Dad's here.
Yeah. All right. All right. We're out.